Good evening, Tallahassee. I'm student meteorologist Alejandra Garcia with your Monday edition of FSU weather. Let's get into it, everybody. Look at that beautiful sun in the sky, folks. It's a beautiful afternoon. You guys should definitely take advantage of that great weather. 93 sunny with a nice breeze from the north at 12 miles per hour. And that current radar showing just a little bit of scatter, just not really any intense storms to watch out for. Make sure, I hope that really continues for the rest of the week with Hurricane Ian right on the horizon. High 80s and 91 in Tallahassee, probably going to continue with that heat until we get that nice cold front we're expecting later in the week. Tonight in Tallahassee, 65, partly cloudy with a nice breeze. You guys should definitely go outside tonight. Take advantage. We're having a great season with football, great weather, and we're looking forward to the future with a cold front bringing a drop in humidity. Hurricane Ian is a potential track, and hurricane safety and preparedness. All that and more on FSU Weather.
Thank you, Ale, for that awesome intro. This show, we have quite a lot going on. So, firstly, obviously, we're going on in the tropics. We have a lot of things we're watching. But here right now in Tallahassee, we have some gorgeous weather coming into just the start of fall. We have some gorgeous weather we're going to be going over across the country. However, the main story, as I previously said, is going to be Hurricane Ian. We're going to be going over what some of the potential threats are for all across the state of Florida. So please do stay tuned so we can give you the best advice and latest updates so you know how to be prepared for the storm coming your way. We're going to be passing things off to Nico for the first start of our show.
Thank you, Spencer. So today's headlines, your main one is going to be Hurricane Ian and the potential track of the storm. But we did have a cold front that dropped the humidity. Anyway, right now, it's currently 93 degrees under sunny conditions. Today's probably going to be our hottest day for the rest of the year. So enjoy the hot, sunny weather while you can, because you know what's coming later this week. It's in the low 90s area-wide, sunny conditions right now. This is good weather to prepare for the storm. If you're going to go home, tomorrow's going to be the day to do it, so definitely pay attention to the weather. Look at your dew points, though. 56 in Tallahassee. It's not humid today, even though it is hot. That's going to change when the storm comes later this week. 59-degree dew point in Quincy. Now, if you go to the south and east, your dew points are a little bit higher. I don't think 73 in Monticello is right, but the ones southeast of that look about correct. And your heat index is in the low 90s. I think Monticello might be a faulty reading, but the rest of the area is in the low 90s and in the upper 80s right now for a heat index. Your temperature almanac, you're only a few days off the record high today. It's 94 degrees. It's above average. That's going to change later this week with the storm. But it was just pretty close to the record high. Now look at your hour-by-hour forecast for tomorrow. It gets hot again tomorrow. This will be before the storm gets through, so once the storm passes, it will be cooler. Now look at your satellite and radar. There's nothing today. There won't be anything tomorrow. After that, this radar is going to have a lot of rain on it, so definitely keep your eyes on that later this week. Tonight, it's going to be 69 under mostly cloudy conditions. It will be a very nice night to be outside tonight ahead of the storm. It's going to be calm before the storm tonight, upper to mid-60s area-wide under partly cloudy skies. It will be nice. And tomorrow, you're in the upper 80s with partly cloudy conditions. You got another dry day ahead of the storm area-wide. It's going to be in the low 80s in Thomasville. That will feel really nice for them. Look at your week ahead. There's your nice day on Tuesday. It's going to be 86 degrees and mostly cloudy. Look what happens after Tuesday. Wednesday it gets windy, then Thursday you have storms. Friday you have storms. Saturday you have lingering showers. Those are the days you have to watch for getting impacted by the tropical system. And then Sunday and Monday are going to be nice behind the storm. But now I'm going to pass things off to Nicholas.
Thank you so much, Nico. Yeah, so as you can see on our cameras right here, up here in the north in Panama City and for Orlando, it's actually pretty clear for the most part. But over here in Miami and Tampa, they're starting to see the first rain bands from Hurricane Ian arrive into the region. But for the time being, we'll be good for the next couple days. Now, current temperatures all throughout the state has been pretty hot. Now, In the lower South Florida region where the rain bands are starting to come up, it's obviously cooler due to the rain and cloud cover. But up here in Tallahassee, just like we've been having the past few weeks, 91 in Jacksonville, 93 in Tallahassee. And here, as I was explaining the satellite, these are the first rain bands from Hurricane Ian coming up right over South Florida, causing major precipitation and hazardous flooding for most of the region. Now, we do not know where the track will go yet, but we can expect more rain for the rest of the state. And as you can see through the storm outlook, all these coastal areas are going to be at a marginal risk for today and tomorrow, mostly South Florida as these rain bands keep coming up. For our 72-hour rainfall forecast, yeah, look at South Florida, lots of rain, especially be careful if you're in the coastal regions. There's going to be about 10 inches of rain in some regions, so please be aware for major flooding due to the hurricane. Now in Miami, as you can see from the cameras, 80% chance of rain throughout the next several days. Temperatures are going to be in the 80s, but please stay indoors due to this Hurricane Ian causing these major flooding. Same thing in Tampa. Over the next few days, as the hurricane approaches its location, the conditions will become very hazardous and not safe for people to go outside. And same thing for Orlando. For the majority of the state is going to be experiencing some sort of effect from this hurricane, and so there will be rains throughout most of the state. As for Jacksonville, them too will also be experiencing some rain, 80% chance and 100% chance on Thursday. And as for Tallahassee, for the time being, we are actually okay. But as the storm keeps progressing northward, as you can see on Wednesday, the winds are going to start to pick up, and then on Thursday we'll get the cloud cover from the first rain bands. As for tonight's forecast, down in South Florida, continue to be rain, while up in the northern part of the state, it will be clear and temperatures will be in the low 60s. So here in the upper part of the state, you have some time to get prepared and some nice weather to do that. As for tomorrow's forecast, there's going to be increasing rains as the hurricane moves up. But for Tallahassee, we're going to be good for tomorrow. And I'm going to pass it on to Aaron for a look at the southeast.
That's right, Nico. It'll be a tale of two different stories across much of the southeast, where we'll have hurricane conditions potentially across the Florida Peninsula and then cooler, drier air off towards the north. But currently, right now, across much of the southeast, we have that warm, that drier air. 91 Tallahassee, 85 in Montgomery, and over to Little Rock, we're seeing comfortably in the middle 80s. Our current radar does show those afternoon showers and thunderstorms. This will begin to be, or this will subside overnight until you see that rain shield over there. That is the northern part of what is now Category 2 Ian, which will make its way north throughout much of the Florida Peninsula. But we'll have to watch until that in the next few days. But for the rest of the southeast, we're under the influence of that much drier, high-pressure air across much of the upper southeast. And for that water vapor, we do see a little bit of moisture across the upper levels of the atmosphere. So that might produce some clouds, perhaps over the evening tonight. And most of that dry air, though, is in front of Ian. And this is also the upper portions of Ian that is starting to overspread the Florida Peninsula tonight. For our current dew points, we have that really dry, bone-dry air across the northern portions of the southeast with 30s, which is very dry, very cool, especially once we get that cold front to pass by here in the next few days. But across much of Florida, we're seeing that tropical air from about I-4 southward, where it's still feeling pretty muggy outside, and much of that does extend up the Atlantic coastline as you make your way towards coastal Carolinas there, with really muggy dew points all the way up across much of the southeast. Now for our wind speed here, we do have that northerly component with that cold front that is kind of stalling across much of the Big Bend here, and we do have that easterly component of the wind as you make your way south towards the Florida Peninsula, out ahead of Ian. But at least in our neck of the woods right now, we have that northerly wind behind that cold front. That's what's allowing for that slightly drier air across much of the south and east. And so for SPC Storm Outlook, we do have a non-severe risk across much of the Florida Peninsula and a little bit into the Panhandle over towards Mississippi, where we could see perhaps a few stray, isolated thunderstorms that could perhaps be of severe, but for the most part, staying below severe limits at least for much of the precipitation today. And for active alerts, this is going to extend northward, but we have a lot of tropical alerts right now across much of Florida. We have hurricane warnings in effect, or watches, I should say, in effect for the Tampa Bay area southward. Tropical storm warnings in effect from about Polk County down through about the lower Keys there, and tropical storm watches out along the east coast from about Broward County northward, Miami-Dade County northward to about Savannah, Georgia. And as for our area, we will be watching this extend northward as we now are actually under effect of a tropical storm watch across the Big Bend, but we'll talk more about that in our tropics. As for the SPC Storm Outlook Day 2, we'll see that potential slight risk across the southwestern Florida as we start to see those banding features happen across much of the area. But tomorrow's forecast, we'll see temperatures remain pretty warm and dry across the northern interior, or the northern portions of the region, but that cooler, rainier conditions across South Florida.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Now, let's take a bigger look at our national outlook. So current dew points, we see definitely a lot of dryness around the western portion of the United States with a little bit of green around that coastal area. As for Florida, us down here, it is very, very moist. Very typical for the southeast. Not really anything we haven't experienced before. It is going to continue to get more wet as we see Hurricane Ian come through. Sorry. And as Aaron mentioned, we do have that cold front we're experiencing that is going to be coming through, bring some cooler temperatures, bring some of that drier weather. However, the west is no stranger to dry weather with that high pressure over the west. A nice low pressure system right down in California, going to be bringing in some moisture from the Pacific, and just mostly just dry conditions around the middle United States. As for the northeast, we see quite the upper level low just swirling around Toronto, really looking like a Beyblade for my 2000s kids. And it's just really going to be bringing a lot of moisture to the northeast region. Our heat index quite hot down in Florida, kind of looking like a lot of heat also in southwest Arizona, cooler around the coast, and definitely cooler up in the northeast. You see that line where the cold front is coming through, bringing that cooler temperature. You're going to continue seeing that green moving through the southeast, bringing those cooler temperatures, kind of giving us a break from that dryness, that heat. Upper level water vapor, you can see that swirling around Toronto from that upper level low I mentioned. And down in Florida, Miami, you can see the outer bands of Hurricane Ian starting to bring a lot of rain into the area. Folks, if you're in Miami, if you're in Florida, make sure you keep in touch with your National Hurricane Center and a lot of your local weather that will tell you a lot more about the impacts for your area. As for the west, definitely looking dry, not a lot of things happening out west. You're definitely seeing maybe some moisture coming in from the Pacific, from the North American monsoon, going to bring some moisture for Arizona. Active alerts, main focus here, folks, Hurricane Ian. We have a lot of tropical storm warnings down in Florida. We have a lot of hurricane watches, hurricane warnings, especially for the Big Bend region, definitely for the Keys, where you're going to be seeing those impacts first. As for active alerts, you also have some heat warnings up in the northwest, even down in Southern California. You're going to see a lot of that heat, a typical, fall weather for those areas. Satellite and radar showing more of that moisture throughout the United States. We're seeing those scattered showers along New Mexico going into Colorado, and you continue seeing just that really angry low pressure system up north, and just again those outer bands in Miami just making their way up. We're going to continue seeing that for Florida this week. Taking a closer look into Toronto, just really angry weather, and in Florida you're going to be seeing just more of that moisture as Hurricane Ian moves through. Drought monitor showing a lot of red for our mid United States region and a lot for the west. We're actually seeing maybe some drought over in the eastern part of the United States, which is kind of uncommon for this time of year, but it's definitely going to be getting more moist with that hurricane coming through. Drought monitor, closer look, just really lighting up in Kansas, in California, just those really dry, warm temperatures. Storm outlook, definitely just kind of a broad, non-severe outlook for the most of the United States, but as you get into Florida, you're going to see it lighting up as you continue with that rainfall. Look at that rainfall. Look at Florida just blowing up, everybody. And for tomorrow's forecast, you're going to be seeing just a lot of 80s along the board, especially for the west and for Florida, you're going to just continue seeing just more of that dry weather. That hot weather is going to be getting more moist and cooler for the Northeast. Now we're going to pass things off to the desk.
Thank you, Ale, for that great look of our national weather going on. So main story for tonight is definitely Hurricane Ian, and that's what we're going to be talking to you guys about tonight. So first things first, you guys really want to make sure that by now you have all of the things that you're going to be needing for to prepare for a hurricane. That includes water, non-perishable food items, rechargeable batteries, or portable chargers that you can use to charge your phone. These things are all essential. And another thing that's really important is because there are some evacuation orders, both mandatory and voluntary, particularly in the Tampa Bay area. So it's all about those evacuations, isn't it, Nico?
Yeah, you should definitely know your evacuation routes and know if certain roads will be closed or certain areas will be inaccessible, because if those parts of the roads are inaccessible, you won't be able to get out. And so that's why it's very important that you call your local government offices or your National Weather Service to know the right evacuation routes and where you can be safe if you feel that you are not prepared in your home. There are plenty of shelters and government services that can help you out during these unfortunate times.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to wait on these evacuation orders. You will get caught up in that traffic, and that is the last thing you want to deal with during a hurricane. And another thing, make sure you are getting your information from reliable sources. The best source for overall general hurricane information is the National Hurricane Center, which you can access by going to nhc.noaa.gov or hurricanes with an S at the end.gov. That's going to be the best information for the hurricane as a whole. But for more localized information, you can look at the weather forecast offices for Miami, Key West, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and the Tallahassee area. Those are all going to give you more localized information about how you can prepare. And just so you guys are still aware, there is a lot of uncertainty in the track of the storm. So yes, it is looking like Tampa Bay may take the brunt of the storm, but the storm still could move. Just even a few miles will have a big difference. Could bring the storm up here to Tallahassee, could bring it closer to Tampa. Isn't that right, Nico?
Yeah, that's why so many parts of the state are under either a tropical storm watch or a tropical storm warning. And so the difference between that is in a watch, there are the possibilities and the ingredients are there that these conditions might be there for in the near future, but in a warning, these conditions are expected. So if you are in a hurricane or tropical storm warning, you should definitely take cover, stay indoors, and have those hurricane kits prepared for the next week.
And passing things back off to the wall for the start of our next segment.
That's right. The big headline is going to be the tropics. We have, of course, the big story is Ian. That'll be approaching Florida as we get into tomorrow into the lower Keys, but we'll have to watch that out. The latest cone from the National Hurricane Center does have Ian as a Category 2 hurricane in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. It has began that rapid intensification to which we've been forecasting over the last few days. Unfortunately, that has panned out, and it's going to be moving across very warm waters, probably one of the warmest waters over the Atlantic Basin, right over the northwestern Caribbean and over into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. And one note, at least for model trending, is we noticed that those models, the GFS and the European model, have become a lot more certain with where it's going to go, more around near the Tampa Bay area. So unfortunately, it does look like it could be worst case scenario for them. But of course, the track might change slightly. But one thing also to note is we noticed a slowing down of the storm potentially near the Tampa area, which of course might drop a lot, bucket loads of rain over the Tampa Bay, unfortunately, on top of the storm surge and other wind events as well. And zooming in closer to Florida, we do see the cone has shifted slightly off to the east as of the 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time advisory, with Tallahassee on the western portions of the cone. Don't let your guard down if you're in Tallahassee. We do have the potential to see some effects from this storm, although the further off towards the east it does push, the better it will be for us, because we'll be on the right or on the left-hand side of the storm, where we'll see that northerly counterclockwise flow around the storm, as opposed to that onshore flow. But unfortunately, as it gets up into the northern Gulf, while it will weaken, we might see that wind shear tend to blow all those showers and thunderstorms off towards the eastern portions of the peninsula. Now, we do have an area of disturbance out in the very far Atlantic, where we do have a 70% chance, perhaps, of it developing. Although this one does not look like it's a threat to the United States currently at this time. It looks like it should move off towards the northern portions of the Atlantic. And then we do have a few waves crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and of course we have Ian over in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico, northwestern Caribbean. Now, current water vapor, we do see abundant of that water vapor across much of the Caribbean, with a lot of moisture for this to work with, and this will take the envelope, or the moisture envelope, with it as it protrudes northward, as it interacts with that trough, and then shoot it off towards the northeast. But we'll have to watch that too, because some models also show it missing the trough, and hence why we might not see much of a steering mechanism as we get towards the north and eastern Gulf of Mexico. So not great news for the area, or for the Tampa Bay area, I should say. And that wind shear, we see right now over the Caribbean, we have lighter wind shear around Ian. That's what's going to also allow it to intensify over the next 24 to 48 hours as it moves its way into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, but that should be a hostile environment as we get into the northern Gulf of Mexico. Now, for our tropical cyclone names, we now can cross off Ian, unfortunately, and next on the list will be Julia. Now, passing things over to Spencer.
Thank you, Aaron. So firstly, taking a look at much of the live looks in our area, so you can see, looking at the Sportplex, gorgeous clear skies. Same story in Panama City, as well as Lake Bradford and St. George Island. We are looking at gorgeous clear conditions across much of the area. However, this will change in the coming days as Hurricane Ian does begin to approach. And taking a look at our current temperatures for the region, we are looking at some pretty hot temperatures across much of the Big Bend region. Again, 93 in Sumatra, 91 in Tallahassee, and Apalachicola as well. And tonight, it's going to be a gorgeously clear night, a waxing crescent moon. And on top of that all, we are going to have some gorgeous viewing conditions if you like looking at the stars like myself. Sunset's going to be at 7:29 tonight. And our dog walk forecast. So if you are going to be walking your dog tomorrow morning, right around 7 a.m., it's going to be nice, crisp, cool, 66 degrees. That is going to warm up just a little bit by 9 a.m. And by 11 a.m., reaching 77 degrees. Still not too bad for this time of year, if I do say so myself. And taking a look at our airport. So right now in Tallahassee, looking at no major delays, just some cloudy conditions and 93 degrees, just a little hot and cloudy here. Again, this will change as Hurricane Ian does begin to approach. And it's a similar story across much of the country. Atlanta, Dallas, New York, Denver, and Orlando all have little to no delays. Gorgeous temperatures and conditions across much of the country. Most of these won't change too much, but Orlando in particular, and possibly even Atlanta as the storm moves a bit more north, could see some delays in the coming days. And if you are going to be driving home in the next few days to get out of either Tampa Bay area, the Big Bend region, etc., you are going to want to do so as soon as possible. You do not want to be on the road caught in traffic. So if you are going to leave tomorrow and drive, I would recommend doing that as soon as you can, particularly around 9 a.m. It'll be gorgeous driving conditions. Just got to look out for traffic. And our marine forecast. So right now, just a light chop, really, really warm sea surface temperatures. That's why this Hurricane Ian is going to be so dangerous. It's really just going to intensify as it gets closer and closer to Florida. And just looking at some nice southwesterly winds at about 5 to 8 miles an hour. And tonight, for those of you who are Jewish like myself and are celebrating the Jewish New Year, it is Rosh Hashanah. This begins the year of 5783. Yeah, I know, been around for a while, I feel like. So to everyone who is celebrating like myself, I would like to say L'Shana Tova, to a happy and sweet new year. I'm wishing you guys all a happy and healthy new year. Just a nice clear night, 70 degrees with a northerly wind at 5 miles an hour. And for your Stroger forecast, if you are going to be in Stroger, it's typically a little bit chilly in there, but outside it could be as low as 65 tonight. So maybe bring a jacket if you're a little sensitive to the cold like I am. And our weekday planner. So for the next few days, we can see nice, gorgeous conditions tomorrow. However, by Wednesday, we can possibly expect to see some tropical storm force wind gusts. So please be aware that if you are going to make your preparations, you're doing so by Thursday at the absolute latest. And Thursday, Friday, just some rain and possible winds associated with Hurricane Ian. Going to be passing things back off to Nico for another look at our local weather.
Thank you, Spencer. Well, we have a game on Saturday scheduled. It's yet to be seen if that's going to go on. If it's going to go on, it will be nice by that time because the storm should have moved east of our area, or not east, north of our area. But I don't know if they're going to have that or not. And here's your live look at Doak. It's currently sunny. You won't see that for a while. After tomorrow, it's going to cloud up soon. It's currently 91 degrees and sunny. It hasn't changed much in the past 20 minutes. However, this is, like I'm going to mention again, your last chance to really prepare for the storm. At the moment, it doesn't appear that it's going to be as bad here as locations east, but that can change. Only a few miles of shift away to the coastline of Florida is. It could easily shift right back to Tallahassee. Currently, your wind speeds are out of the northwest, and that's because we had a weak front pass through. Currently on your radar, you have nothing but ground clutter. This is not rain. You get ground clutter from the radar sometimes. There's no rain area-wide right now. It's a nice evening. You might see some clouds, but I don't think there's really going to be any showers. Now, what you will see on the future radars down here, this is the clouds coming off of Hurricane Ian, which is now a Category 2 hurricane. You don't see any showers and storms, but you do start to see the clouds getting thicker tomorrow. So those clouds, when you see them thickening up, those are from Ian. Tonight, it's going to be 65 degrees and partly cloudy. It's going to be a nice night tonight. It's perfect weather to have before the storm to get prepared and enjoy a nice night before it. It's going to be upper to mid-60s area-wide before the storm, so that will be nice. Now tomorrow, if you're taking a bike ride around Tallahassee before the storm, it's going to be a nice day. It's going to be 69 in the morning, and then it's going to get up to the mid-80s in the afternoon under partly cloudy conditions. It will be a nice day to be outside tomorrow. So tomorrow is your day to get outside before the weather gets bad. It's going to be hot, though, but it is going to be nice. That's your main thing. By Wednesday, it is not going to be nice out. Now, look at your week ahead. You got your upper 80s tomorrow, but look at Wednesday, windy. Thursday, you're going to have showers and storms. And if the track of Ian shifts west at all, it's going to be much worse. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. So then after the storm, this weekend will be nice. But now I'm going to pass things off.
Thank you so much, Nico. So yeah, Hurricane Ian, Aaron, if you've been living under a rock, it's a big one. It's coming towards Florida. How are you feeling about that?
Honestly, it is a bit concerning because I am from the Tampa area, so I'm certainly watching for some family and friends over there. But it is really a serious threat, and not to take lightly over there, as this might be potentially a historic storm for the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, I know the west coast of Florida never really gets hit much, but it's just really unfortunate, especially how uncertain they are with this track and the intensity. It's really just kind of all coming all of a sudden, you know?
Right, and of course, if this does take the northerly, or that just staying offshore of Tampa Bay, that will be the worst case scenario for Tampa, and it would shove all that water into Tampa Bay. But there is still room for error in the cone. I do want to stress that it's not absolutely certain, but it looks like Tampa might not avoid the impacts.
Yeah, definitely. You really got to watch out for that storm surge, especially in those coastal regions in Florida. But guys, just make sure you have your hurricane preparedness kit. Make sure you're getting reliable information. Make sure you're keeping an eye on those forecasts and with your local weather stations. But for now, why don't we talk about our socials? You guys can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/FSU weather.
And like us on Facebook at facebook.com/FSU weather.
And if Facebook's not your cup of tea, you can also watch us live on YouTube at youtube.com/FSU weather.
And lastly, do not forget to follow us on Instagram, especially during this critical time, at FSU weather.
Well, yeah. So make sure you have everything ready for that hurricane, and make sure you guys are just keeping in touch with your weather stations.
Right. Make sure you're turning to the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, and your local officials, especially if you do live in a flood-prone area.
Yeah, of course. Just make sure you're staying safe, everybody. Hopefully Florida doesn't get hit too hard. And have a great evening, everybody. Make sure you stay safe.